All right, ready to get microscopic. Today, we're doing a deep dive into hygiene.
Sounds exciting.
It's more than just soap and water, right? This is epic.
Absolutely. We're talking about a battle, microscopic, always happening on your skin,
Yeah.
defenses that would make sci-fi writers drool.
I know, right? And we've got this nursing student's guide. It's called Student NURS 101 Hygiene PPT tagged 2.pdf.
Okay.
It's going to make us appreciate, the stuff we take for granted.
It's easy to forget. Our skin, it's our first line of defense, fighting off a world of pathogens.
Pathogens, okay. Now I'm picturing like an alien invasion movie, but instead of spaceships, it's like bacteria and viruses.
Our skin is ready, just like a fortress. It's got layers. Each one's got its own way of keeping those invaders out.
Wow.
The epidermis, that's the outer layer, acts like a wall. It's alive, always regenerating.
So all those dead skin cells we scrub off, they're like casualties.
Yeah, you could think of it like that. But it's not just about a strong outer layer. There's more.
Okay, so what else is there?
Underneath, you got the dermis. It's a network, blood vessels, immune cells, nutrients. They keep everything strong and healthy.
Okay, network. Got it. So we've got the wall, we've got the supplies. What else is in this incredible defense
So
system?
this is the cool part. We've got these cells in the epidermis called Langerhans cells.
Langerhans cells. Okay. The name even sounds like a superhero team.
They are the superheroes. These cells, they capture the invaders, they study them, and then get this, they present this intel to the rest of your immune system.
Wow.
They're the reason a minor cut, a breach in the wall, usually doesn't turn into a major infection.
My mind is blown. But that makes me think, what happens when the defenses are down? Like when we're in an environment with way more of those enemies.
Like hospitals, you're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you have to worry about what are called healthcare-associated infections, or HAIs.
Okay, HAIs. I'll be honest, that term gives me the chills.
They can be serious, for
Yeah.
sure. The good news is that many HAIs are preventable. And one of the best weapons we have, hand washing.
Hand washing.
Sam,
Simple, but powerful.
think of it this way. If your skin's the wall of the fortress, hand washing is like reinforcing the gate.
Okay, I can see that.
No weak spots for those invaders.
But there's a right way to do it, right? Like, what's with washing from distal to proximal? I always forget what direction that is.
Distal just means farther away. Proximal is closer to the center. So you're washing from your hands and feet in towards your core.
Okay, so why is that so important? It's about blood flow, right?
You got it. Especially for people worried about DVTs, those blood clots that can form in the legs. Washing this way helps with circulation, can even prevent problems.
Wow, who knew the direction you wash could make such a difference?
It all comes back to understanding why we do what we do. Same goes for oral hygiene.
Keeping those pearly whites sparkling, there's more to it than just a pretty smile.
Way more. We're talking about fighting off infections, especially for older adults.
That reminds me, I did see something in this nursing guide about that. What makes oral hygiene so important for older adults?
As we age, our mouths produce less saliva, and that saliva is super important. It washes away food and fights bacteria.
So less saliva, more problems.
Right. Especially for older adults who might already have weaker immune systems, it's a recipe for infection.
Wow, I never made that connection before.
And dentures, same thing. They need special care too, just like your teeth.
Denture care, got it. What else is on our hygiene checklist?
Let's not forget about our feet. You might think, what's the big deal? But
Let me guess. This is where you tell me about all the tiny monsters living on my seat.
our feet go through a lot. We trap them in shoes all day. It's a breeding ground for bacteria if we're not careful.
Okay, how do we win this war against foot germs?
Clean and dry, that's the key. Wash daily, get between those toes, and dry them thoroughly.
Makes sense. And while we're down there, we can't forget about our toenails. I'll admit mine don't always get the attention they deserve.
They're important. Just like fingernails, long toenails can harbor all sorts of nasty stuff, and those sharp edges, a recipe for cuts and infections.
So we trim those nails to keep the bacteria away.
Exactly. And here's a little tip. Always cut straight across, not rounded.
Wait, really? Why is that? I've always wondered.
Rounded cuts can lead to ingrown nails, which can be painful and get infected easily.
Wow, the science of hygiene never fails to amaze me. It really is all about the why, isn't it?
You got it. And speaking of why, everyone's hygiene needs are different. We've talked about older adults, but what about bariatric clients? They have unique needs too.
That's a great point. Okay, let's talk bariatric care. What are some of the hygiene challenges they face?
Bariatric clients often have more skin folds, which means more places for moisture to get trapped, and that can lead to irritation and infection.
So it's all about keeping those areas extra clean and dry.
Exactly. Gentle cleansers, breathable fabrics, even powders can make a big difference.
Great advice. It's all about adapting to individual needs. And that makes me think it's not just about physical needs, right? We have to consider cognitive factors too.
Absolutely. Think about individuals with dementia. Remembering hygiene routines can be tough, and they might have difficulty with coordination or even have a different understanding of cleanliness.
That makes a lot of sense. So, how can we support those individuals while still respecting them?
It's all about adaptation. Break down tasks into smaller steps, use visual cues, make sure the environment is calm and comfortable.
It's about meeting people where they are. This is fantastic.
And speaking of different needs and perspectives, let's not forget about cultural differences.
Oh, that's right. What's considered clean here might be totally different somewhere else. We've got a whole world of hygiene practices to explore.
We do, but we'll save that fascinating journey for part 2 of our deep dive. Welcome back to our deep dive into hygiene.
It's amazing how much there is to learn about something we just, we take for granted.
Right. We've talked about the science behind it all, the techniques. But before we go on our hygiene world tour, there's one more thing. Perineal care.
Okay, perineal care. Not exactly a glamorous topic, is it? But yeah, it's important. So let's dive in. Why is it so important, especially in a hospital?
Well, think about it. It's a sensitive area, the perineum, and it's prone to, moisture. Plus, it's important for so many bodily functions.
Yeah, which makes it a prime target for bacteria, I'm guessing.
Exactly. And in a hospital, there are just more potential pathogens. So good perineal hygiene is critical to prevent infections.
So it's about more than just feeling fresh, it's about patient safety.
Absolutely. It can make a world of difference in a patient's well-being, feeling clean and comfortable, especially when they're not feeling their best.
Right, dignity and comfort are so important. But how do we make sure we're doing it right? Balancing good hygiene with respecting differences, especially when you consider the cultural differences we talked about earlier.
That's where communication is key. Understanding their background, being open to preferences when we can. It's a balance, isn't it?
Providing care and respecting their values. Okay, so are you ready to take us on this hygiene world tour you promised?
Ready when you are. I told you about fascinating cultural differences, and trust me, I'm prepared to deliver.
Okay, my bags are packed. You mentioned what's considered clean varies a lot. What are some of the most surprising differences you've come across?
Well, let's start with bathing. Sounds basic, but in Japan, it's a whole different thing. It's a ritual, an art form.
Seriously.
They have these public bathhouses, sento and onsen. It's like a community center. People relax, socialize.
So it's like a spa day, but social. Incredible. Didn't you say the water is supposed to be, like, healing?
It's a total mindset shift from how we often see it in the West, where it's like a chore sometimes. For them, it's about the senses, self-care.
I love that. Hygiene is never boring. What's next on our trip?
Let's go to India. Have you heard of Ayurveda?
Ayurveda, yeah. Isn't that an ancient system of medicine? How does that tie into hygiene?
It's all about balance in the body and mind, and hygiene is a big part of that. For example, they do this thing called oil pulling.
Wait, oil pulling? I've heard of that. That's where you use coconut oil, right? Like mouthwash?
You could say that. It's supposed to remove toxins, help your mouth. There's even some science that says it might actually fight microbes, especially with certain oils. But it's also about tradition.
It's amazing how those ancient practices are still around today. What other Ayurvedic hygiene secrets are there?
They often apply oil to their bodies before bathing. Not just any oil. It could be sesame, coconut, or herbal infusions. It's supposed to nourish the skin, get the blood flowing, and help you relax.
Sounds so luxurious, like a spa treatment at home. Okay, I'm adding Ayurvedic spa day to my list. Where to next?
Let's head to East Africa, meet the Maasai people.
Ooh, the Maasai. I've always wanted to learn more about their culture. What do they do for hygiene?
One thing you'll notice right away, they use red ochre.
Red ochre, the clay, what do they use it for?
They mix it with animal fat and put it on their skin and hair. It protects them from the sun and dry climate.
So it's like sunscreen and moisturizer, all natural. Wow, and I bet it looks amazing.
It does. And it shows how the environment and the resources available shape hygiene practices.
It's amazing how adaptable we are. What other cultural hygiene practices are out there?
Let's go to Indonesia. Have you heard of mandi lulur?
Mandi lulur? Nope, that's a new one. Tell me everything.
It's a traditional Javanese spa treatment,
Yeah.
very old. It's about cleansing, purifying, and beautifying the body. It's a whole process.
I'm so intrigued. What happens during a Mandi lulur treatment? Do you get to wear a cucumber mask?
It usually starts with a massage, using traditional herbs and spices. Then they do this gentle full-body scrub. And we're not talking about just any scrub. It's ground rice, turmeric, and other natural ingredients.
A rice and turmeric scrub. That must feel so good.
It really does. Turmeric is great for your skin, and the rice gently exfoliates. After that, they do a long soak in a warm bath, often with flower petals or oils in the water.
Oh my goodness, that sounds divine. It's more than hygiene, it's a whole experience.
Exactly. It's about ritual, tradition, taking care of yourself.
Mondi Luller sounds amazing. What a great example of how hygiene can be such a sensory experience. All right, I'm ready for our last stop. What else is out there?
For our final destination, let's travel to West Africa, specifically Senegal. They have this amazing tradition called Thiaré.
Theory. Okay, you're gonna have to explain this one. What is it all about?
It's all about fragrance. Incense, perfumes, all those good smells.
So it's about smelling good. I can get behind that. How does it connect to hygiene, though?
In their culture, fragrance is part of hygiene and beauty. It's not just about covering up odor, it's about creating a good aura, a way to express yourself.
So it's like an extension of your personality, how you want to present yourself.
You could say that.
That's cool. It reminds me of how we talked about being culturally sensitive. What we might think is too much here could be totally normal somewhere else. What kind of scents do they use for Thiray?
Oh, all sorts of natural ingredients, often from the local area. Woodsy scents like sandalwood, earthy resins, flowers like hibiscus, and spices. They blend it all together to create those amazing scents.
It's like a whole art form. This hygiene world tour has been incredible. It really shows how something as basic as, keeping clean can be so different around the world. That Mondi Lulur sounds amazing. I might need to try that.
It's definitely an experience.
We've covered so much in this deep dive. It's incredible.
It's been a journey for sure, from microscopic skin battles to ancient traditions and fragrant rituals.
My mind is blown, officially.
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it?
It really is. But before we wrap up this hygiene extravaganza, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
That's a good question.
What's the big takeaway?
I think it's that hygiene isn't one size fits all, you know? It's about finding what works for you, your body, your lifestyle, your background.
Right, but we've got to remember the science behind it all, too.
Exactly. It's finding that balance, personal preference, cultural differences, and what we know actually works.
And being open to learning new things.
Always.
Well said. This deep dive has been incredible. I've learned so much.
Me too. It's amazing what you discover when you really dig into a topic.
To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this hygiene adventure. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a new topic.